everybody, good afternoon. This is Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. As you can see, I have been working on my super easy beginner scrap quilt. My blocks that I have made, you can see my playlist, and I'm getting to the point where I'm going to be finishing my quilt top, probably my next video, putting my border on. But this video is showing you how I'm sashing and I'm putting my cornerstones on that we had agreed on, the little pink floral cornerstones. I appreciate everybody's suggestions for cornerstones, but we did end up using the pink floral of the border. It's a busy quilt, it's all over, it's feminine, it's girly, but we're really pleased with it, Ian and I. So thank you so much for following along. Again, to see how I got to this point, how I've made this quilt super easy, super beginner friendly. I hope you just refer back to my previous videos. People are saying they're glad I'm back to my tutorials. Ian will still be hosting. He has a few sewing rooms tours coming up, and I just wanted to let you guys know that Jen is going to be filming on January the 19th. I believe it's January the 19th, Friday, January 19th. So if you want to tune in and see Jen, we haven't filmed for ages, been talking to her forever, but we haven't filmed, so put that on your calendar. Jen will be here, my dearest friend, and I think she has a few new sewing projects, new quilting projects. So we'll catch up with Jen on film, and yeah, we'll have that to look forward to. So thank you again for following along with me, folks. I hope you enjoy this video coming up. Love from the Trueloves. I'm sewing my blocks together with my sashing. As you can see here, I've put my sashing on and I've put my cornerstones on. Now, how I've done that is a slightly unconventional, but this is how I do it when I have a cornerstone where my sashing meets, which I want to get nice and straight across. You see that? My sashing, I've decided to use the floral here, as you can see, and my sashing is nice and across. So for the first half, I don't have to do a long strip. I just have to have two cornerstones on this small quilt, one here and one here. So the first thing I do is I've cut my strips. I think my blocks measure about 12.5 or so. Cut these about 2.5 inches. One is on that end, on one end I've attached my 2.5 inch square, matching up my gingham. Now you won't have to do this if you don't have a printed thing. If you just have a plain sashing, it's easy. 2.5 inches, 2.5 inch square, 2.5 inches, and then the length of your border. But because I really want to get this gingham print well, I'm starting to attach these on the cornerstone. Now usually you would go all the way from the top, but as you can see, my sashing is a little bit longer. So I'm going to pin my cornerstone right there where that seam meets, and that seam meets really quite nicely. And you know me, I don't like to pin a lot, but from there, from my cornerstone, I'm going to just lay my sashing right at the top. Now it's too long, as you can see, but I'm just laying it right along that seam. And I know, remember, I'm catching this little bit of roses there. It's about 1 inch big, but that's good. I'm going in 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to stitch down to my sashing, to my cornerstone, where I've pinned it, knowing that this side of my cornerstone, my pin, and here's my pin, is going to meet lovely. Now I'm going to continue. Now this is a little bit odd. I'm going to continue my sashing strip right down, and then you'll say, well, where's your next cornerstone? This is where I do it a little bit funky, but to get it really right, I stop about 1 inch from the edge and I backstitch, so if there's a little bit of a stress on here. So as you can see, my one side of my cornerstone has matched up really nice, like that. Hopefully you can see that. And my blue gingham is nice. Now I've come down to my next cornerstone. What I'm going to do, I've done it pretty sides together. What I'm going to do is I have my next pretty cornerstone here. Let me just say, I have a couple of them extra. I'll do the pink again. I have this one here, my cornerstone. What I'm going to do is I'm laying that sashing right there. And because I want to have this at 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to see where my sashing comes exactly to that horizontal sashing. Do you see that? And I've creased it there. I've creased it there really, really good. Okay? Now I'm going to open that up and I'm going to cut my sashing strip 1/4 of an inch away from that crease. Because that crease mark is going to be where I'm going to sew. Because that will nest, my cornerstone will nest right on that seam. So I'm going to put my pretty sides together, my cornerstone and my sashing. Go on the sashing side where my seam is, my crease is, and I'm going to sew on that crease. Now I know when I go to match up this sashing, the intersection, and the next intersection of my sashing, it will match. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another piece of my sashing here, my third piece. I'm going to do the exact same thing with my cornerstone. Now I've cut that pretty good, just a little bit crooked. I just cut that. That is 1/4 of an inch that I need for my sashing strip. So I'll put the pretty sides together, making sure that my gingham is nice and matched up, like so. And I'll sew that 1/4 of an inch. Now, hopefully my cornerstone and my sashing will just nest together beautifully on that seam. So I'm going to come back where I was sewing, about 1 inch or 2 up there. I can feel my sashing, cornerstone, seams nesting together beautifully. There's one nesting. One goes one way, one goes the other way. Oops. Now I'm just going to continue sewing. 1/4 of the inch away. Right down. And as you can see, I've cut my sashing longer on this side. As you can see that, I've cut my sashing longer. All right, so I don't have to worry about cutting my sashing exactly. That's how they do it, like 12.5 inches, and that cornerstone, this exact measurement. I get that look right there by just fiddling around with it a little bit. My seams are matching beautifully, okay? So now what I've done is I've done the whole one side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my next block and sew it onto here. So as you can see, this is the sashing that I've just sewn on. And these are my cornerstones that I've just sewn on. All right, I have a little bit left at the bottom there, as you can see, and I have about 1 inch at the top there, which I am now going to trim off. I'm going to be attaching this row here. And the most important thing is I'm going to start pinning on my cornerstone there, right? I'm going to pin on that cornerstone, and then I'm going to come down, I'm going to pin on that cornerstone, following my block up to the top, and hopefully it will match at the very top there. There's no cornerstones. At the very top of my block, I'll trim that bit off. So my sashing is going to go right across. Again, here is the row that I just sewed, and I have a little bit at the top that I'm going to trim off right flush with my top of my block. Trim off that sashing there, okay? And then I'm going to put this in front of me like that. I'm going to take my other piece, and I'm going to be putting my pretty side to pretty side. And I'm not starting at the top. I'm going to go right to the cornerstone there. So I'm wanting this piece of sashing here, that sashing to match up with my cornerstone, making sure that it's matching up with the other horizontal sashing there. So I just make sure, pretty side to pretty side, that my blue stripe is going the same, is in the same configuration, and then I just pop that over and nest those seams or match those seams there. Put a pin, making sure the seams are matched on that cornerstone. Now, I'm sure if you do it like proper quilters do, you have cut these absolutely precisely. I'm not doing that. I just do it, I sort of wing it. My top blocks actually match. Having gone up from my cornerstone without stretching them, my top blocks on that sashing match. Now I will turn this over, sew on my border side, my sashing side, because I want to make sure I encompass that rose there, as you know. So I'm going to go down about 1 inch below my sashing, down that way. Now I've pinned it on the other side. I'm going to pull my pins out. Just go slowly. I can feel my seams have nested, and then again I can see the cut off roses, and I can see that I have some of the blue gingham right in the middle here. So I just have a bit of on the white, and then my top blocks are matching beautifully. There's a dog ear at the top. I go right back, and I'm gonna pinch and pull that, and I'm gonna cut off that dog ear at the top. So now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see if that's worked down to that cornerstone. And there I have to finish the rest of the seam. But my cornerstone, as you can see, my first cornerstone matches beautifully. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing. Might be a bit of fiddling around, but I'm not bothered by that because I like to get these cornerstones and my sashing really nice right across from each other. So again, I'm going to make sure that my sashings match, my gingham, and then the seams match. And hopefully, because we've cut these blocks quite good, that they're going to fit. That seam of that cornerstone matches. Now again, I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to pull it from sashing, from cornerstone to cornerstone, and it fits. I'm going to go down right a little bit below that cornerstone on this side. Pull out my pins. Nest that seam, and then again come up to where I sewed before. Now I'm going to check it to see if my second cornerstone is in line. There's my first one, my first cornerstone, and then, yes, my second cornerstone. Now I'm just going to finish sewing from that cornerstone down to the end of my quilt. And as you can see, the previous sashing I left a little bit long, so I can just trim that off. And my blocks have been perfectly the same. My block will match beautifully. So I'm just going to turn pretty side over, and I'll finish sewing that seam. Well, I have finished my sashings and my cornerstones on the body of my quilt. I'm going to finish my video right now because I'm going to be continuing putting my border up. As you can see, I've cut the border stripe, which has the floral and the blue gingham, and I've just pinned the border up. That's not pinned up that. But in my next video, I'm going to be showing you how I will miter this striped corner here. That's just pinned there. But as you can see, the blue gingham stripe will go right around. There's no precise measuring. I know in professional quilters do that, but I just sort of jiggery-pokery it, and I'll come up with 4 nice mitered corners here when I sew my border on next. So I'll go down here and I'll make a nice bright mitered corner there, and in my 2 corners over there. So yeah, I'm real pleased with the way that sashing and my cornerstones have turned out. So stay tuned for my finishing up my quilt top. It didn't take long at all. All right, folks, stay tuned for my next video. Thank you so very much for watching. See you later. Just want to show you what is left over from my, I believe I had gotten 3 yards of this striped floral gingham fabric. And after I have cut my borders and my sashing for my quilt that I'm making in long lengths that I've needed for my border and then 13-inch for my sashing, this is what I have left over. Now I'm absolutely not going to get rid of this because most of these are the 3-yard lengths cut off from the 45-inch square, 45-inch wide fabric that I have. And as you can see, okay, that might just look like a floral, but these could be used in a smaller quilt or pillows, or maybe ruffled for a small little throw pillow or something like that. So when you're using a stripe, you do have to cut off this was used for my sashing. Oh no, this one was used for my sashing. That one, I had that left over, and then this one is being used for my border. Okay, but I have these left over. So by all means, if you get a stripe, I always would recommend you get about 3 yards of a stripe, because then that way you have enough stripe to go around, say a quilt that's 72 or 80 inches. 3 yards will give you enough to miter your stripes on the corner, which I will be showing you how I'm going to be doing when I put my final border on, and then enough for a leftover project. So don't overlook a striped or a border fabric. I think they're wonderful. Even though you cut it up and you think, oh no, this is all that I have left. And I'm very thrilled with that.